We're doing over 9 figures. We're a 9-figure business with Murder Inc. And here they come in and they just stop everything.
Murder Inc., active since 1998. Hip-hop crews. Why do they fail for the most part outside the main artist having success? We see this often in hip-hop and have been since the beginning of the genre. It doesn't mean a member or members of said crew may not grow to have success on their own. But when it comes to the main artist getting on and developing into a stamped artist in the industry, then bringing his crew along to have similar success, we really haven't seen that outside of maybe a handful of crews. The last I can say this happened had to have been either 50 Cent and G-Unit or Cameron and Dipset. Today's feature is one of a crew you could bet on in the early 2000s to be the next to do so and have a long shelf life, seeing as they had one of the top hip-hop talents at the time in Ja Rule, who was also selling at a rapid rate in a time guys like Jay-z and Eminem were still in their prime. Ja Rule could rap, sing, write records for both female and male, and perform like not many of his generation, on screen or on the stage. They had, at the time of her introduction into her prime, the hottest female act for all things not her vocal range outside of Beyonce. She was literally hot. Outside of Beyonce at the time, Ashanti was the girl all men wanted and women admired. The days before Rihanna, of course. When it did come to her vocals, Murder Inc. had such a Midas touch, she didn't need to be the greatest vocalist. That's how great and timely Murder Inc. songs were back then and the star that was shining on them. You also had Charlie Baltimore, Christina Millian, also going platinum, Lloyd, who could probably use his own feature, how great his trajectory looked, Vita, who I think Murder Inc. really dropped the ball on. In my opinion, Vita was different. She was feisty, she had bars, and a sound we hadn't seen at the time outside of maybe Eve. And she and Ja had really good chemistry. Either way, Murder Inc. was a standout rap crew led by an artist creating a wave that we still see in hip-hop today, an undeniable hit after hit. But like they say, timing is everything. And also, don't ever get too big for the game. Well, Murder Inc., as you will see in this episode, may have had some of the best, worst timing ever, and did get so big, according to Chris Gotti 9 figures big, that they had to been taken down. And they were. Here are 3 reasons Murder Inc.'s growth as a crew was stunted. It's your boy Jay-z Stunted Growth. Get it. Murder Inc. was a rap and R&B group founded around 1998 by brothers Chris and Irv Gotti. The latter, Irv, came from music industry experience, helping guide a young Jay-Z and DMX's early careers to success. The name came as a spin off the 1930s and 40s organized crime group. Instead of people, they wanted to kill beats and murder hit records. Russell Simmons saw the hustle in Irv and the valuable asset he could be, so gave him more control, as in allowing him to have his own label under Def Jam. And Murder Inc. got to work quickly. June 1st, 1999, they, led by Ja Rule, dropped his debut album. It went platinum and scored Murder Inc. a much-needed good start. They followed that platinum trail with 2 more multi-platinum albums by Ja Rule, transitioning into Ashanti and Christina Millian, who were also finding early success. But then things all came to a halt. Stunt number 1, the FBI in their pockets.
It was the worst. It was one of the worst times, and that took a 3.5 year, maybe almost 4 years, close to 4 years.
One of the biggest and least talked about growth stunts for Murder Inc. was the money laundering investigation and trial they were caught up in, beginning officially in 2003 after properties being simultaneously raided by the FBI. According to Chris Gotti, money was flowing in like water. Murder Inc. was reportedly pulling in over $100 million after taxes at their peak. Kenneth Supreme McGriff. To give you a tidy story of his involvement, Supreme, as he was best known, was a Queens, New York kingpin in the 1980s. He was sentenced to 12 years in 1989 and was released in 1994. His cocaine distribution was Street Hall of Fame level, and his name was intact when he got home. Because of this, the police expected anyone he befriended to possibly be helping Supreme on his rise to power once again. The FBI built a case that Murder Inc. was funneling street money from McGriff and cooking their books to look like more profits than were actually accumulated. The Gotti brothers lawyered up heavy because if it's one thing the feds don't do much is lose. Not only did they pay for lawyers for them, they did for everyone that was raided and would be a part of their case. The money spent behind fighting to prove Supreme was merely a friend, an entrepreneur trying to get into the music business, was said to be over $10 million at the very least. Over the years fighting this investigation, they were asked to leave their Def Jam offices, made to put out albums to honor their contract, only to not be re-signed and left for dead. Business-wise, it was difficult getting the same people in the industry to work with Murder Inc. and to get distribution for their records in fear that if they worked with Murder Inc. while under investigation, it could have the feds in their books as well. They dealt in limbo until 2005 when the trial ended. Yet and still, that investigation took a lot from Murder Inc. at a time they could have made a historic mark. Stunt number 2, messed with the wrong one.
To let someone come in and, disrupt your legacy to this extent and you not respond to it is crazy to me.
Who? The captain. Who? I don't know him. You know what I'm saying? I don't even know what you're talking about.
50 Cent. I know Irv Gotti and Ja want to believe 50 didn't play a significant role in their demise, but he absolutely did. Yeah, he got shot and stabbed and you want to say he snitched, but look at his success compared to anyone else in the industry not named Jay-Z, Kanye West, or Sean Combs, and then look at what happened to Murder Inc. The underrated element in all of this was the timing in which it happened that we alluded to earlier. All while being investigated by the feds and the IRS, which led to spending tons of money defending themselves, they were now feuding with the hottest artists maybe ever in hip-hop. The rise 50 Cent had was legendary. From 2002 to 2004, you weren't cool if you took Murder Inc.'s side in the beef. He had the backing, the hits, and the charm to make listeners believe Ja Rule was corny. He even had Murder Inc. blackballed from any event or awards he was at. Ja's following album, Blood in My Eyes, was his first to not go at least platinum. Ashanti was still doing well, Charlie Baltimore was threatening to leave, Christina Millian and Vita had left, and without the extra cash to at least pay to stay popular, 50 Cent buried Ja Rule's career, who at some point tried to stop responding to 50 Cent, who, like mentioned, was the wrong beef for them at the time as petty as he was, and to this day, he still has pressure from Murder Inc. Ja Rule never went platinum again after the feud, neither did any Murder Inc. artists.
Let's find a way to at least make it equal. At some point, it didn't even become equal. It just became a total wipeout.
Stunt number 3, the results. Murder Inc. won against the feds. Let that sink in. They did that. They also got back on their feet and signed directly to Universal in 2006, and so had the freedom and power to give themselves a chance at getting back to what it once was. But it never came to that. Their music sales began to plummet. Artists began to request their release forms, including Ashanti in 2008, Christina Millian, Lloyd, and eventually even Ja Rule. Ja took a much-needed hiatus after his 2004 release due to the enormous loss he took to 50 Cent, which will go down as the most dominant rap beef victory. They would even attempt to rebrand, calling it The Inc. after the case, but that didn't disguise the damage the investigation and 50 Cent had done to them. Fans also started to choose a side, and with Murder Inc., they really didn't have much left to choose from. And And what exactly did 50 Cent do after bringing down the entire label? He ran with Ja's Midas style and began making the same vein of hits for himself. All in all, Murder Inc. will still go down as a legendary hip-hop group because of their peak. They were doing some impressive things, going platinum like they were with multiple artists and on their way to a low-key fortune. Unfortunately, the government had it out for Murder Inc., knowing they didn't have a strong case. Taking their money and business as they knew it was their only way to stop their ascendance. Hip-hop will always remember the name Murder Inc. Unfortunately, it'll probably be for the loss they took at the hands of the feds, even though they won the battle, and 50 Cent. Salute to Murder Inc., much respect, but for these reasons, their growth as a crew was stunted. It's your boy Jay-Z, Stunted Growth, and I'm out.